What's up, fight fans? It is the TSD Alyas here, back again with another banger, and welcome back to the Split Decision Boxing Show. I am the TSD Alyas. This is my boy Nate, and we have a very special guest. Nate, can you introduce him for us?
Yeah, so we're here with boxing trainer Jeff Poritz. Did I say that right?
Yep. Might as well.
So me and Jeff go way back. He used to train with my dad when he used to be in the gym as a fighter. I was a little kid in diapers, just running around while Jeff was doing his thing, training with my dad. And now here we are, coming full circle on a boxing podcast, and he's here to help us break down Jaron Ennis versus Eimantas Stanionis. So, Jeff, how you doing? How's everything been?
Good, man. Just as we were talking off camera, just got done with some sparring that we had in the gym here today, and got a quick bite to eat and get an opportunity to talk to you, fine young gentlemen.
That's awesome. So speaking of obviously, training and stuff like that, who are some of the guys that you train, and do you have any fights coming up?
Yeah, I train Eric Tudor. He's welterweight. He signed with Golden Boy. He's fighting April 19th on the zone. He's 13-1. He's I think he's 15th in the WBA now. WBA Latin title. He won last fight. I train Lorenzo Medina. He's 12-0 heavyweight. He just signed to the famed TKO Dana White
Okay.
promotion. Daniel Bailey. He also fights April 19th in Kentucky. I'll be with Eric, so he'll be with another one of our coaches. He's a featherweight. He's 15-2. I train Luis Hernandez. He's 4-0. He'll be fighting this weekend, April 11th at the Hard Rock. I train Lazaro Medina. He's 3-0, 154 pounds. He'll be fighting at the Hard Rock. I train Sasha Tudor. He's 3-0. He fights at 160. He's waiting for, well, he's going to fight in the TCL for a little bit, make some quick bucks. And then I train Sebastian Santana, two-time national amateur champion. He's about to make his pro debut at 126. And right now, that's about all I can think of that we're training.
That's
That's
awesome, man.
that's awesome to hear. And before we get into like the previews and stuff, man, I just want to get your quick thoughts on what do you think about Turkey Al-Sheikh and this TKO boxing group?
Look, I got three guys in it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm here to tell you that sample contract that gets thrown around. That's not what everybody's contract looks like. You know what I mean? It's not a one size fits all program. That's not how it works. And I'll tell you another thing too about everybody. I'm on the inside of boxing and I know how it really works. This is how the pay scale in boxing works. Not even 5%, 0.05% of the fighters in boxing take 95% of the money that's in boxing, right? So like on a UFC model, who are the guys that maybe wouldn't make as much money? Ryan Garcia, Canelo, David Benavidez, guys like that. Okay, the top guys. Those are the guys. But in these contracts too, if you're a big mega superstar, these are just your minimums. You know what I mean? Like it's up for negotiation. I'm here to tell you, fighters lie about how much money they make. They all lie about how much money they make. And for the majority of fighters, the other 99.9% of fighters are sharing that 5% of money that's left over. And they're not making shit, man. They're really not. These contracts that are being offered are better money for 99.9% of the fighters. Okay. The only people it wouldn't benefit, just purely based off the minimums, are only your pay-per-view superstars, right? But like, when you're looking at like the Charlos of the world or whatever, they're making a defense of their title. They're not making $4 or $5 million, man. They're making, or somebody's fighting for a title for the first time. I'm here to tell you, they're making 250,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. By the time that shit gets all broken up, it's not as much as you think. So uh and I've got quite a few friends that are, in the boxing media too, outraged about the money. I'm here to tell you, man, the money for the majority of the fighters is far better. The only ones that it on paper is not the best for are the pay-per-view superstars But even if they were in the league or the organization or whatever you want to call it, they would negotiate. They would negotiate their purses just like any other thing would. So that's a mute point. I think that boxing needs I think we have a lot of guys running from other guys, you know what I mean? Whether it be promoters doing it or managers doing it. I think the best need to fight the best. I think the best prospects need to fight the best prospects. And I think if the league does what it's supposed to do, we're gonna get away from this Floyd Mayweather. I'm never gonna take a risk because I don't want to lose my O. And you're gonna get fighters that are gonna get third, fourth, fifth chances in this sport like they should. They could come back and get better. And I think you're gonna see the best fighting the best. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Turkey Al Sheikh seems to have quite a bit of fucking money. So I don't know why
A little bit.
this
Yeah.
is getting played as like it's gonna be the Salvation Army of boxing, man. This guy's making a lot of investment in boxing, and I like it. You know what I mean? Why not? Like how many times do you guys sit there and bitch, man, the best aren't fighting the best? Okay. Or there's 17 titles. Who's the actual world champion or this, that, the other thing. I think that too many promoters have been sucking off of TV money, and that's why the TV networks are pulling out and not doing enough promoting, and just one fighter, a Tank Davis making $10 million to fight a guy from Germany or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying him in general, but the story
Yeah.
is ridiculous. And then the rest of the guys on the undercard are making $30,000, $10,000. You'd be surprised if you knew just what the majority of fighters are actually making. It's not a lot. So I think that boxing needs a reform. I think that on paper this looks good. Who knows? I'm hoping for the best, but I do have three guys that are part of it, and I'm anticipating that it's good.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think too, I think the biggest thing for me is that, like, as much as I love boxing, it's probably the most unorganized sport in
It's the
like
Wild Wild
Horribly
West.
ever.
unorganized.
And so
Horribly
like, and so if Dana White wants to come in and kind of put a little bit of structure into his organization to kind of get a good pay scale, put a real business model, we'll just have to wait and see. I can't really gauge it until I see the actual product and the actual numbers. Like the bottom line is pretty much the big thing. But I just want to get your thoughts on that real quick. But we're gonna go straight.
I'll say this: who are the two most powerful people in combat sports right now? Dana White and
Right.
Turkey Al
Turkey
Sheikh, right?
House.
So you just made Voltron. I really don't understand why people are looking. You have the two most powerful people in combat sports. They just created. I don't know if you know this, but TKO Promotions, they own the WWE. They own the
Yeah,
UFC.
it's a whole thing. Yeah.
Turkey Al Sheikh is a majority shareholder in DAZN. You know, certain promoters about to lose their ESPN contract. Who's on ESPN? You know what I
Top
mean?
rank.
Yeah, but their contract is up.
Hmm.
It's coming out. Who else is on ESPN? The UFC. You know what I'm saying? So where do
Yeah.
you think that that's gonna go? I'm speculating, but if I'm a betting man, I say, hey, look, Top Rank's going to the zone. That's already a done deal. That's public news. So who's gonna get ESPN? He who controls the TV controls box, and
Yeah.
so I don't foresee how it could be a bad thing.
That's a good
Sure.
saying.
Yeah.
It makes me
Yeah.
not want to cancel my DAZN membership now. Now that I know that now that I know
Oh
that
my
Top
god.
Pick is going to be there, but
Yeah.
let's just
Yeah.
get straight into it,
Yeah.
man. Because for the past few weeks, I've been saying these past few weekends in boxing haven't been the sexiest in terms of fights and high profile fights. But this Saturday, we're finally getting one of those high profile fights for the unified IBF, WBA, and vacant Ring Magazine welterweight title against Jaron Boots Ennis and Eimantas Stanionis, a fight that me and Nate have been talking about for a while. Jeff, what do you think about this matchup?
Is this for the undisputed? Is this for it all?
It's unified. It's unification bout. So it's for
Yeah.
two of the four belts. And Brian Norman
Who
and Mario Barrios have the other two belts.
who's the other one that has it? Mario Barrios and who?
Barrios, yeah, and
Brian
Brian
Norman
Norman
Jr.
Jr.
Oh, and Brian Norman Jr. Um, how do I think about the fight? think Jaron Ennis. I don't think. Listen, Stanionis is a good fighter, man. You know what I'm saying? Very good fighter, but he sits there with that high guard, wants to sit there in the pocket and stuff. You know that guy that Jaron Ennis fought before, whatever. You know, he was tricky, man. He was in and out. He
Yeah.
was tough. He had a lot of foot movement. You know what I'm saying? Like Stanionis, to me, he sits there. He's got that high guard. Nobody's better in the pocket than Jaron Ennis, dude. I mean, the guy. You know, I trained Pete Dobson, great fighter. And he had been to camp with all the best welterweights, and I remember him telling me about Jaron. I said, man, you know, he had been to camp with Crawford and Spence and Jaron Ennis. And I said, man, who was the best? He goes, bro, let me tell you something about Jaron Ennis. He goes, number one, he spars 15 rounds, all right, with 30-second breaks, and he does 4-minute rounds. Uh, he goes, you know, some guys got good power, some guys have good speed, some guys have good stamina. He goes, this guy does everything great. It's not like he does everything good. He goes, everything he does is A plus. He never gets tired. He hits like a fucking truck. He's fast as shit. His defense is great. He can fight in the pocket. He can box. He can do this. He can do that. He's like, bro, he's like, you know, he was explaining Crawford. He said, look, Crawford, after a while, he figures you out. He starts to touch you up, but you can hit Crawford. Like you know, it's not hard to hit him, you know. He said Ennis is hard to hit. He hits hard. He's fast, you know, and Pete's a dog. He's been in there with everybody. He's not just gonna, you know, throw up a compliment like that.
Mhm.
So, look, man, anything can happen with those 8-ounce gloves on in a 12-round fight under the lights. Stanionis is tough. I mean, I definitely see ways, you know, he could do good and clip Ennis and win. I know Ennis has been trying to move up. Maybe that means he's having a hard time making 47. I don't know, you know. But for me, on the outside looking in, I see a guy who's going to stand right in front of Ennis, and he's going to kind of let him showcase. You know, I think that Jaron Ennis is a great pocket fighter, you know, that can kind of use his hand speed and his power. And Stanionis is tough. I know he's good at counter punching on the inside. You know, I don't think it's going to be like a terrible fight or anything, but I do think that Ennis is the better man. I do think he's gonna dominate, and you know, that's just kind of how I feel about it. You guys agree?
I definitely lean Ennis for sure. I know his ability to do out of both stances. You know, I do worry. I mean, it could be, you know, he doesn't like not too scared of his opponent's power. He's a little more hittable than I think. A little hittable, not like terribly. Like, you know, his defense isn't quite up at that
He's
level.
rushing to
But
try to knock guys out, kind of. I feel like
yeah,
that
yeah,
too.
it's just kind of, and it's also like level of opposition. If he's not too worried about what's coming back at him, you know, you could be willing to take one to give one if your one's going to do more damage. Against Stanionis, I think one thing I worry about Stanionis, especially in his last fight, like he's very hittable as well. And if you get in, if
Oh,
you're
he's
going back
mad
and forth for
hittable.
Ennis, that's going to be a
Yeah.
problem. And also when he throws his punches, it takes him a little bit to like he'll throw and he doesn't always bring his like hands right back. And like
He
against
does
a guy like
this.
Ennis,
Yeah.
yeah, and then he'll throw and then he'll kind of like bring his hand down and like kind of bring it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think if Ennis can take advantage of that or counter him, but it also could be something if Stanionis can weather the storm and push the pace. For me, that's when if it gets late, that's where it can get pretty interesting.
Think he's got
Yeah.
power like that though?
I wouldn't say he
No, I
has.
think you'd have to
I wouldn't
outwork.
say he has power, but I definitely think he's physically stronger than Ennis. I think Ennis obviously better defensively, better in terms of gauging the range. Definitely a better puncher, but I definitely think physically strong. I think he could muscle him in
A
on
little bit on the
the,
inside.
especially on the inside. I think the biggest thing for Stanionis, I think personally, is activity. I mean, besides his last fight, which was what against Gabriel Maestre last year in May.
Mhm.
Last fight
Who
was
was
against
like,
Antayev.
what like? I'll tell you what. When Nate hit me up about this, I was like, damn. You know what? I need to actually like go rewatch some Stanionis again and pay
Mhm.
attention. But you know why I had to do that? Because he's never really caught my attention when I have watched him, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I've watched him and I've been like, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
He's
Like
solid.
Maestre was bro, he was doing his thing in that fight too, man. I mean, like, I'm not saying that
Mhm.
Stanionis didn't win, but Maestre
Yeah.
was winning rounds and shit, you know, and Ennis
Mhm.
would, you know,
Yeah.
take
And then
Maestre to freaking put him through the blender, you know. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I mean, his last fight before that was 2 years back against Butayev, which was a very close fight. I mean, he edged out a split decision, and so I think the
Mhm.
activity is the biggest thing because Boots has fought like 3 times in the past 2 years. I think he's the fresher
Yeah.
fighter, and I think too, yeah, he might be a little drained at 147, but I think he's purposely kind of draining himself to kind of because Teofimo, Devin, and all of them they're moving up there. I think he kind of wants one of those bigger fights, so he's
Yeah.
kind of trying to kind of solidify himself at this division before kind of trying
Mhm.
to make those fantasy matchups.
Yeah, because he's not
Yeah.
gonna be able to unify. Brian Norman's with Top Rank and shit. Like this is just all over the place. I know he's been saying he
Yeah.
wants to unify, but it's gonna be impossible to get. That's
Yeah.
see, that's where I go back to the TKO thing, right? Is that like you got a guy like Ennis who wants to be great, and it's like, but you look at the landscape and you're like, man, this is gonna be impossible to get all these prima donnas in one room and get them to agree to not all take the lion's share of everything, you know what I mean, and fight each other. They just don't want to do it like that. I'm not saying they don't all want to do it, but in
Mhm.
a lot of cases it isn't. You know who Stanionis kind of reminds me of? He kind of reminds me of like who's the Russian dude that he's fought for a title like 4 times? He's like 15-4, Derevchenko.
Oh,
Oh,
Sergey
sorry,
Derevchenko.
Davinchenko. That's
He
not
kind
a.
of reminds me of a guy. He's gonna be in a competitive fight every time. It's good, it might be close. It might, he might win, but like just not gonna be there, like
Mhm.
close, right there, but just not gonna be there with the Ennises or the Danny Jacobs or the guys that like. He reminds me a lot of a Derevchenko, like tough, a class fighter, maybe just not A plus.
Yeah. He also the whole thing with Virgil Ortiz, where I think they're supposed to fight like 2 or 3 times, and for one reason or another, they had to withdraw. That didn't help with his activity.
That would have
Um,
been a better fight to me. That would have been a
yeah,
better. And
that would
another
have been
thing
a
too,
really good
man.
fight.
Styles make fights. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? Like styles make
Yeah.
fights. I think that Stanionis has a better style for a guy like Ortiz. I think that Jaron Ennis
Hmm.
is just. I think he's too shifty, bro. Like you can
Yeah.
go both. Like if I see just Stanionis doing this and Jaron Ennis just kind of coming side, boom, and this side, boom, boom, and this side,
Mm-mm.
boom, and Stanionis kind of
He's gonna stay in
trying to
center.
follow him around
Yeah.
doing that. Whereas Ortiz is more down the
You don't have
pipe.
to. You don't have to find
Hmm.
either guy. They're going to be right there.
Exactly. Like
Going to the head.
I just kind of see Stanionis' head just boom, 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 just and it's coming up the middle all night long, bang, bang, and seeing pop, pop, pop. That's kind of. I could be wrong, man. Stanionis could come out there, fight the fight of his life, knock Ennis the f out. You know what I'm saying, and and
Yeah.
and be everything. But you know, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on Ennis.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm betting.
speaking of betting, I got the betting odds right here for Eimantas Stanionis versus Jaron Boots Ennis. So according to DraftKings, Jaron Ennis is a minus 575 favorite,
That's a
meaning
pretty big favorite.
you got
Five to
if you want
one,
to,
almost 6 to 1.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
all of them pretty similar except for Caesar Sportsbook. He has him at a minus 800 favorite right there, which I
Jeez.
think is a
Vegas
little
is
too.
never wrong, bro.
Oh,
What about
that's
Yeah.
Stanionis? What's his line? I can't see it.
So he's about like plus 500, about plus 500 on Caesar Sportbook. DraftKings about plus 400. So around the plus 3 to 500 range on betting odds. So I mean,
Does
pretty much
Stanionis have a big trainer? Does he have a? Is he
He
like?
trains with the guy that's Freddie Roach's assistant. God, I
Oh, the
forget his
little
name.
Filipino guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been with a lot of good fighters.
He's a
He,
good.
he,
Like, I
he
mean,
can
he's
get
in
it
the
done.
same camp, so I mean, he's definitely he's gonna be more than ready for sure. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
doubt that. It's just gonna be a matter of like, can he hold up? Is there anything that you can see? What do you think would be Stanio's best path to victory against Ennis?
If he's got, if he's,
I say he just has to make it like a dogfight. He can't
I
really give Ennis time.
I feel like he's gonna. I feel like he's gonna have to try to find Ennis's rhythm, as hard as that's gonna be,
Hmm.
and try to
Yeah.
maybe punch with him or try to punch in between his punches or
Counter
whatever.
him.
Because Ennis is real good in the pocket, bro. Those guys from
Yeah,
Philly, like they're good at,
Yeah.
being shoulder to shoulder and just, going you or me, do or die. I feel like he'd have to. I feel like he's gonna, have to have the fight of his life, and try to catch a guy's rhythm that nobody really. I mean, look,
yeah. He can do it
the
at both stances too.
the other Russian kid that just fought Ennis caught his rhythm,
Yeah, but that was also the second time they fought too, and
and
that's
that was
another
the
12
second
rounds
time.
that
That
no
was
one
the second.
has.
That was the
Yeah,
second time they fought,
Yeah.
and you know, that guy had a tough style, bro. That in and out shit. If you
yeah,
if you can go in and out, and you have the ability to take a punch, you know what I'm saying? Because the biggest problem with jumping in and out like that is when you're pulling straight back. You're giving guys
yeah.
opportunity to hit
Or
you at full extension. So, when you got a good chin and you don't really got to worry too much about that, and you're jumping in and out, a la Manny Pacquiao, it's tough to deal
mhm.
with that shit. So, what does that go? What? Why? Number one, I had never heard of that guy. Why is he not getting big fights? I mean,
Probably because I
who's
mean
gonna
neither.
want
I
to
think
fight that guy? He beats Brian Norman to me.
Oh, well, okay.
oh man.
I'm
I
pretty.
think
I'm pretty high on
I
Brian
think
Norman, but also,
I am too, but I think it's the business of boxing. I mean, if you're a high
yeah,
risk, low reward
because like
type of
neither
guy,
fight was that like appealing, and I mean he did. I mean, what he took Ennis because they fought. They fought
he
on the
took him
undercard of
24
a
rounds.
yeah, Tank
24.
versus Luis Garcia. I forget his name,
I'll tell you
but
what,
yeah,
Brian Norman, his last two fights, he's the tale of two careers. Let me not get down on Brian Norman because I'll tell you what,
yeah,
his last two fights, he's looked incredible. But
yeah.
I was gonna fight Brian Norman with Pete at one point, and when I was watching Brian Norman's fights, actually that fight was being made, and when I was watching Brian Norman's fights, I was like, I, you know what I mean, like no
Mhm.
problem, yeah, no big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
But the
He's also
Brian
only
Norman I
24
was
years old.
watching, but the Brian Norman that I was watching, like the one that fought Quentin Randall and shit, is not the Brian Norman that beat Santion for the title and that just wiped off Derek. I mean, Derek Cuevas is Derek
Cuevas.
Cuevas. I actually know Derek Cuevas. He's whatever, but he's not no A+
Yeah,
dude. But so let me not say that about Brian Norman, but
yeah,
I do think he beats Brian Norman. I think Brian
yeah.
Norman, he's come straight ahead, and that kid's so
Yeah,
in and out.
shifty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tough to deal with.
yeah. And Norman's also he's only 24 years old, which is crazy. I didn't realize he's that young.
Damn, is
So
he
that's
only
like I mean, there's
24
so
years
much
old?
room. He's only
Yeah.
24 years old, so he has a
Yo,
lot
and
of room for growth
Santion,
and with experience.
and
Experience. Santion's
Santion was
solid.
knocking. He was knocking people out. You know what I'm saying? He was
Yeah.
knocking people out like that. So
He was the next guy up.
give it to Brian Norman
Mhm,
for. See, that's the thing about boxing, man. Is like, yo,
mhm,
look, nothing ever happens the way. As a trainer, I tell my fighters, I'm like, look, bro, if we can walk into a fight at 70%, then we're good. What
mhm,
what what the fans don't see is that, like, man, how many fights we've gone into where we didn't even get to spar because maybe in the first sparring session the guy got cut, or maybe he hurt his
mhm.
hand, or he got COVID, or you know what I'm saying? But like, look, man, no fight, no pay. These guys don't have
Yeah.
second jobs, bro. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
like,
Mhm,
a lot of times you don't really know. It's not going to be the perfect storm for you to just go in there and be 100% every time. And give it to Brian Norman for getting that call and laying it all on the line and saying like, okay, yeah, I'll do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get a chance to fight for the title. Wow, let's do this. A lot of guys turn chances like that down. Many guys turn chances like that. They'll say that there's not enough money. They'll say that they're not ready. They'll say this. They'll say that. The dude stood on business. Now he's a world champion, and he's gonna
Yeah.
end up getting paid because I promise you, these fighters are licking their chops to fight the guy. You know what I'm saying? Whether they should be or not, he looks very
yeah.
beatable. So those are the guys that get the money. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
Because those are the guys that the big guys with the big budgets, he holds a title and he looks very beatable. He's the winning ticket. Jaron Ennis, nobody wants to fight this guy. Why do you think he fought that weird Russian that nobody even knows who the fuck he is? Or that he's fighting
Twice.
Stanio. Yeah, or that he's fighting Stanionis, who has 15 fights in 27 years of boxing. They don't want to fight this guy. But a guy like Brian Norman, you got a title, you look very beatable. You got Willy Wonka's golden ticket at that point. You sit on that thing, you defend it a few times against guys you're gonna beat, and then somebody with a big name is gonna come in and they're gonna give you a lot of money to beat a current world champion, take your title, because they feel like they're gonna, run through you.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And we talk about Jaron Ennis, and we talk about how he's kind of levels above pretty much everybody at 147. But in this fight specifically, is there any glaring weakness that Stanionis can really capitalize on that Jaron Ennis kind of puts in each fight?
Look, I have not sat down and watched Jaron Ennis as a coach, to coach against him, like trying to pick stuff apart. I watch all his fights. Um, I couldn't say I've watched any of his fights twice, you know what I'm saying? But on the outside looking in, uh, preliminarily, doesn't look like there's much. You know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't maybe he's a more religious man. I don't know, but like it doesn't look like there's much to it. But like I said, you don't know what has gone on in Ennis's camp. You don't know what kind of camp he's had. You don't know if he's had a hard time making weight. There's a lot of variables that go in, that go into this stuff. But, again, I haven't watched Ennis in a coaching fashion to coach against him. But in the fights I've seen, there's nothing that I'm going like, oh man, all I need is my guy to do this. It's like, oh man, this is a guy I really don't want to go up against,
Yeah.
He looks
Nah,
like he's a tough motherfucker, man. He looks like
Oh,
a guy
yeah.
that's like,
He can pretty much
fuck.
do everything.
How do you even get
Yeah.
sparring for a guy like that? Who do you even call in for sparring?
Yeah, I don't think Terence Crawford's coming in and fighting out of both stances for Stanionis to get ready.
I'll tell you what you do as a trainer. You lie. You lie to the sparring partner.
Yeah.
You tell him, hey, we got this chump for you. Walk into the ring, Boots is right there.
Yeah,
That's what happens.
Nah, I think it's gonna have to be a dogfight, and Stanionis gonna have to be able to take as good as he gets and probably outwork him. I think that's the only way.
He's definitely gonna have to come in there willing to die. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
willing to
I'm sure he is.
And I don't mean, and I don't say that, like, look, people die in this game every day. I'm not saying it like that. But I'm saying, like, when we say that in boxing, it means like he's got to be willing to come in and go out on a shield.
Yeah.
If he's gonna, if he thinks he's gonna play it safe or survive or try to outbox this guy or whatever, that's not gonna happen. He's gonna have to go in there and be willing to put it all on the line, and always I pray with my fighters before every fight, and the number one thing is that both participants go home safely to their families. So that obviously but he's gonna have to be willing to to be hurting the next. There's no way he's just gonna win without going through the meat grinder, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's gonna have to be ready for pain and to sacrifice a piece of himself. You're not beating Jaron Ennis unless you're willing to sacrifice a piece of yourself to do it. And that's just the facts.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully that's what we get, man. It's a unification bouts. Two of the best welterweights in the world fighting each other.
I mean, he don't look like no punk. I'm sure he's definitely that's going to be the last of his words. Yeah. I just hope he can, look, if he can kind of keep up with Jaron Ennis's foot movement and his pivoting and shit, then he'll do good.
Yeah, cut off the ring.
That's a hard task.
That's
footwork. That's one battle.
That's what Teofimo did with Lomachenko. He every time Lomachenko would make one of those pivots or one of those moves,
he turned with him.
Teofimo would turn with him and follow him, and it shut down a lot of Lomachenko's offense. So, shit, maybe Stanionis is a much more talented guy than we've seen. Maybe the same thing like you said about Ennis. Nobody's really pulled it out of him, so he didn't, he wasn't respecting them. Maybe he does have that in him. I don't know, but like outside looking in, it's not looking like he does.
Yeah, well, I think we got a pretty good analysis of the matchup. So I kind of want to get everybody's opinion, man. I want the predictions for this Saturday's title unification. Who do you got? Ennis, Stanionis, and what round?
Well, let me ask you a question before I answer this. Has Stanionis been dropped or no?
I don't think he has.
No.
I know he takes some punishment, but I don't think he's fought anyone that's like, let's see, who has he fought? Like, Butaya was a solid name.
Luis Collazo.
But yeah, well,
Luis
that was
Palazzo and
that
then
was-
Thomas Delorme, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, those aren't. They're not.
Yeah, and Delorme, he
knocking
looked
your socks
extra
off.
regular. He looked extra regular in that. I just watched that fight like an hour before we jumped on this call. That was one of them I watched, and I was like, but that was a hot little
Yeah.
minute ago. He definitely looked like he had
Yeah,
gotten
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
coming off COVID and shit. Like Jim's, it was tough to
Yeah.
get sparring.
Yeah.
Delorme's
Mhm.
tough too.
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
But
So,
yeah.
You
thank
first,
you.
Nate.
Oh, you're gonna make me go first. I think it's gonna be a good fight. I think it's they'll go a little back and forth. I think Ennis' power is gonna end up. I don't think Stanionis hasn't been hit by a guy like Ennis, and the amount of punishment he takes. I think eventually Ennis gets him out there around like round 9 or 10. Yeah, between like 8 and 10. I think that's when Ennis gets him out of there in a good fight.
What's the prop bet for a stoppage? You still have it up there?
Oh, let me if I can pull it up.
I'll answer this and how I'm gonna bet the fight. How about that?
Works
Yeah,
for
that'd
us.
be good.
Because this will be tough, but I'm gonna bet on it because we got that Hard Rock Sportsbook app down here, so
Yeah, so let me see what we can get.
So Ennis by KO, TKO, or DQ is plus 130.
so they feel like he's gonna stop him then.
That's
Yes.
But then plus for a decision is plus 110. So it's like but if you're gonna go straight like by just KO, this is about on DraftKings. KO, it's plus 450. By TKO, it's plus 200. Good luck figuring out the difference between that and betting on it comfortably. Unanimous
that
decision
stops it.
plus 160 and split decision plus 700 and yada yada.
I'm gonna say TKO barrage of punches, 11th round. I think he's gonna chop him down for 10, 11 rounds, and I think he'll find an opening late. You know what I mean? Because Stanionis is gonna be working all night long, bro.
Yeah.
Trying to get inside, and I think that once Ennis finds it, he's gonna step on the gas. I think 11th ref calls it off. I don't think it's a one punch thing. I think another thing too that I want to put in there is that Stanionis, when you have a guy who keeps his hands up real high like this, your elbows are up real high. So what I always tell guys like that is like, man, get up under those elbows. I promise you, Ennis is gonna be digging that
Go
body
to the body,
all night long, and he's a hard puncher, man. Bones are bones, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do as many sit-ups as you want. Like if you're not blocking these body shots and you're gonna let Ennis hit you in the body all night, it's gonna wear you down,
Yeah.
So I'm
That's the best way to slow a guy down.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 11th round barrage of punches.
So those are pretty good predictions. I think it's gonna be the story of Stanionis' physicality and inside fighting against pretty much Ennis's overall game, movement, quickness, cutting angles, and stuff like that. I'm going to say Ennis is going to pretty much dominate the fight 1 through 9, and he's going to stop him in the 9th round. I think it's going to be an actual stoppage. I think he'll get 1 to 2 knockdowns on Stanionis before the official finish. That's what I think.
Watch I feel like you got the boldest pick, and watch, yours is gonna be the one that comes true. He just goes in there. Pretty much you just said Ennis is gonna beat the living shit out of him.
Yeah, and I was praising Stanionis, but like you said, like he has a very high guard, but also like his guard is very wide, so he can kind of break through the middle as well. Yeah, he can dug the body, but he's gonna be able to break through the middle. He's gonna be able to and Ennis has long reach, so he's gonna be able to look to loop around that guard. It's just he's going to present a lot of different shots that I don't think Stanionis has seen in his career yet.
So, you guys these are pretty good predictions. And I got one question real quick. Theoretical. Terence Crawford and Canelo.
Oh man. We're getting way ahead of our skis here. I'm not gonna lie, I think this is a tougher fight than people realize. For Canelo, just because Terence Crawford, like I would say he's more skilled. He can fight out of both stances. He's going to be so much quicker.
That fight's going to happen, bro. Turkey's going to throw so much money on it.
I think it's already a done deal.
I think that's going to be TKO's first official fight card, right?
Yeah.
No.
They're
doing the Teofimo Barboza.
Oh, and that's the first
Devin
one?
Haney. That's in Times Square.
That's TKO.
Is that gonna be under TKO banner?
I mean, that's Turkey and all them. Yeah, and they're doing it for the Ring Magazine. They're doing it under the Ring Magazine. No, it's not going to be a part of that league, no. Because, the thing is that league, they're only signing unsigned fighters.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think they're starting until 2026. I believe. I think they're getting it all together, and then
The
they're gonna
word
go.
the word I'm hearing is that it's going to be end of this year, beginning of next year.
Okay, yeah, that
Like
sounds
like I
more
got
in
like
line.
they're letting us fight. They're letting guys still
Yeah.
fight.
Is it
So
like is this league gonna be similar to like Pro Box to where like it's like
no,
a bunch
I
of
think
like, or is
it's
it
gonna. They haven't made the actual structure yet, but the manager that my guys have is tightly related to it, and from what I'm understanding, what they're kicking around is it's gonna be like, because look, they're signing a bunch of guys. Okay, the contracts, there's minimums, so guys have to fight 3 times a year, 4 times a year, depending on what your minimum is. He's saying that he thinks it's gonna be like old school, man, like Friday night fights, Tuesday night fights, a big cards, 2 big cards a month, Saturday night, the prelims on UFC Fight Pass, big fights on Netflix, regular fights on DAZN and ESPN. I'm throwing names, I'm throwing
Yeah,
networks
yeah,
out there, but
yeah.
uh that's what we're understanding that it's gonna be, is like they're gonna really put out a lot of boxing content. My thing is that, like, the difference between well, I guess it's the same, right? You know more about the UFC than I do, Nate. How many of those cards have 5 round fights on them?
Just one. You typically, unless there's multiple title fights or unless the two fighters agree for it to be a 5 round fight. But usually outside of that, if it's not the main event, it's a 3 round fight.
So that's what I'm saying. That's what's gonna be tough. I don't know how they're gonna do it, because think about it this way: like, you got guys that are 8 round, 10 round fighters. You know what I mean? Like in boxing, it's a lot
Yeah.
different. Like, you can't take a bunch of
Yeah.
10 round fighters and make them fight 6 rounds.
No.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I
and
can't
so
imagine a round's going to be changed that much.
where
Yeah.
are they gonna get
Yeah.
the time for that? You know what I mean, for the card? Because if
Yeah.
you got all the, I think they're doing, is it 21 fighters each weight class or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, you got a lot of
Yeah. You got to figure out
6,
the
8,
whole
10 round
roster.
fighters on there. That's 30 minutes, 40 minutes with
Yeah.
breaks.
That card's going to take 12 years to finish.
You
If you're
know,
doing a bunch of 10
so
rounders.
you know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
so I don't really know how they're, maybe the
Yeah.
cards only have 6. Maybe they're gonna do so many cards and there'll only be 6 fights a card. That part I don't know. But from what I understand is it's gonna be a lot of boxing, a lot,
Yeah.
and it's gonna
No
be
complaining about a lot of boxing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
I'm
gonna
not
be the
complaining about that.
UFC, and it's gonna be the UFC model too. The way they
Yeah.
rank, and which
So
is dope.
yeah.
Yeah. If
So
the best are
pretty
fighting the
much,
best, that's what
yeah.
matters.
So pretty much they're gonna kind of promote the brand more than the fighters. Like the brand itself is gonna be like kind of like the title card, because that's kind of what the UFC is. Like the brand comes before.
I think that they're gonna use that Ring Magazine belt as the
That
belt.
could be.
That's why Turkey bought Ring Magazine. You know what I'm saying? Like, who actually reads magazines anymore? You know what I mean? I used to love reading Ring Magazine back in the
Oh,
day,
my
but
dad has a whole collection of them.
yeah, it's like, but he bought that for the belt, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I'm
I think
Just
so.
more
speculating,
control.
but
Yeah.
or
I
to have a
mean,
belt to fight for, like a legit belt, instead of it being like the
Mm.
TKO Turkey Al Sheikh belt. It's like, look, you're fighting for the Ring Magazine. That's what I'm
And that's
assuming.
as prestigious as it gets.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out, but hope for the best, man. Don't be a hater. It doesn't look, it's,
Oh,
as an insider, I'll tell you, it's not, none of the insiders are tripping. The media guys that are friends with the top guys in the sport are tripping a little bit, because, but I can't name any names, but there's promoters out there that are being like, "Oh, this isn't gonna work. Fighters aren't getting no money." Da 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 da. Da. It's like, I've got guys with promoters like, who you saying is not getting no money, bro? I know what you pay. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, you ain't paying no money like that, bro. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? Like, the money is not. It's better than a lot of what these promoters pay. Like I said, at the high top level, the pay-per-view superstars, yeah, there's nothing in these contracts with fucking $5-6 million minimums. But you think Canelo has an actual contract? You think
Mm.
David Benavidez has an actual contract? They don't have no contracts, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing one-offs, they're doing events, they're doing Super Bowls, they're doing pay-per-view, and the same thing will happen in this league, just like anything else. You think Conor McGregor is on a UFC contract, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be the same shit. If you become a superstar, you're gonna get superstar money, man.
Mhm.
You think John Jones doesn't have Lambos and shit?
100% he
Huh?
does.
No.
You know,
So before we go, Nate, I want to get your prediction because he did ask Crawford or
Oh.
Canelo. I need that.
Oh
prediction.
God.
And
If
I'll
you,
give my take.
I'm not gonna lie. If you, oh God, I think I might be leaning Crawford a little bit. I think, and plus the amount of time he's gonna have to prepare for Canelo too. He's got a great camp with Bomac, and he is just focused on Canelo. And he's gonna be, as long as he's physically can maintain most of his skills, I would lean towards Crawford. I know it's
All
probably in the minority, but
All right. All I'm saying is it's 14 pounds up in weight. 14 pounds up
he
in
doesn't even
weight.
have to go up 14 pounds. He could go up to 161 and just chill, not even cut any weight.
You think 161 is going to be enough for someone who's
I'm
cutting
not
down
saying that. He just has to be
168?
above the middleweight limit.
no,
But
they already. I thought they already said
I know
that
it's at
68 or
160.
nothing.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to. I'm saying he doesn't have to actually step on the scale at 168 pounds. He could weigh whatever he wants.
But like I said, you think someone who's cutting down, who's going to rehydrate up to what, like 175, 180, even higher than that? You think he's going to be able to, be able to handle that? All I'm saying is weight classes exist for a reason, and he's jumping up 2 weight classes, and not just like the smaller weight classes where it's like 3-4 pounds up. He's jumping up from
2
junior
weight
middleweight
classes.
to super middleweight, which is like a huge gap. I will say though, Canelo has been fighting on autopilot, kind of coming forward, kind of just stalking, doing very one-punch selective shots. So that could be, something that Terence Crawford could capitalize on. But the realistic thing is weight classes exist for a reason. That's my take. So I'm going to take Canelo on that.
I'm gonna lean toward Canelo, and I'll tell you why. Regardless of who you think won the Triple G fights or not, I saw Canelo take flush overhand rights from Triple G on the chin, left hooks, uppercuts. I mean, shit he didn't even see coming. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just dead in his face, bro, and didn't even flinch. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about Triple G, one of the scariest punchers that's ever been in the ring. So how is Crawford gonna keep a guy? If Canelo wants to sit there and walk you down, bro, you're not gonna do it with power. You know what I mean? Now, uh, in the weight class thing, do I think Crawford can beat Canelo? I do, 100%. I mean, I was at that Errol Spence fight, whether Errol Spence was,
Oh my God.
fucked up from the car accident or not. I mean, he demolished him, but man, Canelo's a different kind of animal, dude. And the only person that I really, Bivol is huge, man. He's got a crazy ass style. Bivol could be the best fighter in the world too. Like, who know? You know what I'm saying? Like, how? eh, Why not? Like, the better be fights were like mad people thought Bivol won the first one, and he won the second one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he won the second one.
Yeah,
I
yeah, he
thought
won the second.
cleanly. Yeah.
Yeah, he won the second. I mean, so it's like, bro, you could say that Bivol is the best fighter in the world. So I just, I think Crawford can do it, but my heart tells me that Canelo's I think he's just as fast, he's just as tricky, he's definitely stronger, and he's a lot bigger. So, but if anybody can do it, bro, if anybody can do it, it's Terence
Big
Crawford.
Crawford.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like, it would be so dope to see that. You know what I mean?
That would
Like
be
a real
crazy.
life, it would be a real life Rudy moment, David and Goliath type thing,
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Yeah.
if anyone could do it, it's him. It's just I don't think he could.
Pacquiao was doing shit like that, coming up from 112, knocking Margarito out at 50-40 or 154, beating him and shit. It can be done, bro. But
Yeah, for sure.
in my heart of hearts, I think it's Canelo. But dude, if they charge $500 for that pay-per-view, I'll pay it. I don't care, dude.
I'll make a trip to South Florida to watch it with you and to save my
Yeah.
coins.
Watch, I bet you they will. I bet you it will be an expensive ass pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Well, there goes my rent.
For real.
There goes my rent. But yeah, but we're drawing to the end of the podcast. Jeff, thank you so much for being with us today, talking about this upcoming fight. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts on. Well, I mean, we spoke a lot about Ennis and Stanionis. We spoke a lot about TKO. I guess my closing thoughts. I'll put them on boxing in general, right? Like, I feel like this whole argument that boxing is losing its luster and this, that, the other thing is not true. I feel like the problem has become the promoters, and the promoters along the lines, they stop promoting. A lot of these fights that you see on DAZN and shit, I'm there with fighters. There's not even 200 people there in attendance. You know what I mean? Promoters need to start promoting fighters for real, not just signing guys that have big Instagrams. Promote big fights, make them happen, and stop just robbing money from TV networks, paying the fighters a portion of it and putting the rest in your pocket. You know what I mean? Like, boxing is, if you're a real man, bro, you love boxing, dude. You know what I mean? This is real one-on-one shit. This isn't a game. You got guys that are really putting it all out there. And you know, let's hope that the promoters start doing what they're supposed to be doing more and actually promoting guys. And then the fighters need to stop outpricing themselves. You know what I mean? Like, look, if you're not knocking nobody out and you're not, drawing a big fan base, then you're not gonna get paid like that, bro. You know what I mean? Everybody's got to do their part. Somewhere along the way, it got lost. You know what I mean? But I'd like to see promoters promoting fights. I'd like to see fighters going in there and stop playing it safe and stop, fighting guys that can't punch just so they don't get knocked out. You know what I mean? And let's get back to the way shit was like early 2000s at least. People getting knocked out, promoters really doing their job, and you'll see boxing skyrocket back to being one of the top sports again.
Absolutely. And I'm going to add on that because I do think, a lot of people say boxing has lost its luster, but you look back 10 years ago in the 2010s, boxing felt like a dead sport. Like we weren't getting as much attention as we are now with Saudi Arabia coming in and kind of bringing all these promoters together, putting on these mega cards. We would have killed to have one of those fights if it was 2013 or something like that.
Yeah, those years were trash for boxing. Horrible.
Yeah. So like,
and then Al Heyman came along and spruced it up a little bit.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's a hot take. I definitely think boxing's momentum is a lot hotter right now than the UFC's momentum. So I think boxing's in the up and up. Men watch boxing. You gotta watch the sweet science, but that's my take. I think boxing's back. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think boxing's definitely like it's on the rise again. I think Turkey's helped a lot with that, getting the best, and it all comes down to when the best are fighting the best. That's when that's when the sport is at its best, and hopefully we can continue on that trajectory. You have the Times Square card, you have you have Canelo potentially fighting Crawford, and there's a whole bunch of like big fights that happened. Usyk and Tyson Fury fought twice, Better Bivol twice, and hopefully that's just that's setting the tone for years to come and for the foreseeable future.
All right,
but yeah, man, that is all the time we have for today's episode. Jeff, thank you so much for stopping by, taking the time to talk to us today. It was great meeting you, great talking to you. Nate, where can people find you on social media?
Oh, you can find me on Nate_Marrero on Instagram. You could, and I believe, or is that I forget, or Nate_Marrero on Twitter.
You don't know your own social media, bro?
Yeah, you messed it up earlier too, like off the back of your hand. Anyways, but yeah, if I can catch you on KO and SI writing for them, and all that fun stuff.
And Jeff, where can people find you?
On Instagram, I'm Bay2Bay, BAYTOBAY.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us at The Split Decision. Follow the Instagram at The Split Decision. Follow us on TikTok at TSD Boxing. Thank you guys for watching. I'm the TSD Alyas. It's my boy Nate. This is Jeff, and we are out.